I'm fascinated with how you got to where you are. Obviously, you're the founder of Biotech Connect. When you came on the scene in 2014, that was really refreshing. That was a really unique service that you were offering manufacturers and distributors in the industry. Because back then, unless you were a distributor, you were doing your own shows. But if you're just a manufacturer and you weren't in on it or you weren't being distributed by that company, you were pretty much out of luck. And you had to kind of fend for yourself.
The idea was to bring a solution to a problem, like we like to do in general in science. There's several companies doing that kind of service, life science exhibition, much before we started. But in Canada, companies were by themselves. They were bigger companies, more organized, more getting together to do those kind of small events to gather people to talk about their product, their services, their solutions. It's much easier with a company specialized doing that all day long, getting all the good contacts, getting all the equipment, all the logistics solely concentrated on doing that to help the companies. You can come, nothing else to organize, to think about, just come to the show and talk to the customers. My first job after my PhD, I was working for Medimabs. This is a Montreal-based company specialized in antibody production.
Okay.
So I was hired there as a postdoc researcher. I have been put on a research project trying to get some more interesting tools in the cancer domain, in cancer research, basically. But it was not too long before I've been tasked to also do some sales for the company. Being a small company, I could not do only research, spending money. I had to find some money for the company as well. So I was on the road trying to talk to researchers. It was really difficult. My manager was asking a bunch of PhD, shy people, really geek, really smart people, but not really skilled with social interaction. She asked us to cold calling customers, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
really difficult for us. Yes,
Wow.
I was in charge of selling all of those antibodies. We had a catalog of antibodies, and we still need to sell them to new customers. So I was on the road, and I was not happy with cold calling, like I said.
Yeah.
I tried something else. I was more comfortable going to university. Of course, I started by University of Montreal, where I did not only my PhD, but also my master. And before that, my bac. I spent 10 years there. So I knew a lot of people. So I started there. Was easier. And
Good
I
place to
bring
start.
some donuts.
Yeah.
I bring some coffee
Yeah.
and a book, a conference room in the biology department, the biochemistry department, the pathobiology department, microbiology, name it, each of them. And I was inviting people to come visit me, talk about antibodies.
Guillaume, even back then, you already had the natural instinct to gather people together in one room, like you're doing now.
Or it was maybe my way for surviving. Sometimes we say laziness is the mother of ingenuity, but sometimes I was just too shy. So I was inviting first people I knew, and then snowball effect. I was doing bigger and bigger events, and it was really interesting. And not only that, but I was meeting or seeing some other companies in the university corridor. And of course, as part of the research of Medimabs, we were getting a lot of sales rep also selling us product. So I was in contact with them. And I was also still in contact with some vendors from my PhD. I decided to sometime invite one or two companies to share the cost with me of the coffee, the donuts. And it
There
will
you
be more
go.
interesting to invite companies not only to see Medimabs, but also non-competitive companies that are selling things that are for the lab. It was attracting more people this way.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was complicated to share the cost.
Okay.
And this is where Simon Adu, he was mostly doing business kind of
Operations?
organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For us, we were interacting a lot in the lab. And he told me, Guillaume, we have this idea. I said, what? You can start a company doing just that, organizing shows, getting companies to pay for the logistics, and you're giving them a turnkey event when they can meet their customers. I said, oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, exactly. So he was the business wise guy, and I had all the contacts and all the information and mostly the scientific knowledge. We decided to leave Medimab. So it was a small company, maybe 5 employees, and 2 left together. It was a
Oof.
shock in the
Oof.
company, but
Yeah.
we started Biotech Connect. After the big shock, we stayed friends because I was the marketing and the sales of Medimabs. They were my first customer at the
Oh,
end.
cool. That's
So
good.
they needed my help. And finally, they gave me a chance. And Medimab was among the first 5 companies to do shows with Biotech Connect.
Wow, that's awesome. You never want to burn bridges. That's a great lesson there. I'm really fascinated about this part of your story because, as you know, I started North Star Scientific not too long ago, April of last year, and just starting on your own. There's a lot of challenges, a lot of fear, a lot of doubt.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. So you and Simon, you got together, say, okay, we're doing this.
We convinced each other that it was a good idea. I don't think, to be honest, by myself, I would not have done that. And also, what I'm telling a lot of people when they are asking me, how did you build the courage to leave a job that was secured and was paid regularly to be your own and to start your own company where it's mostly uncertain, mostly at the beginning. And, I was not by myself, first of all, and we were two really geek guy having a lot of ideas. It was difficult at first. The money was from our own pocket, me and Simon. It was not much, but we each put 5,000, and it was the max that we could afford. And this 5,000 was the little saving that I had. Same for him. And from this 10,000, we tried to get some more funding from different environmental agencies. We got some money from Laval Techno Park. We started from that.
So like a little grant
Yeah,
for
exactly.
young.
We got some loan that we had to reimburse,
Okay.
and we got also, which is a governmental loan without interest for the first 2-3 years. From that, we started to buy some equipment. It's not that much. We don't need a lot of things, but also we needed money in advance to book all those rooms because we would be paid right
Yep.
before or after the
Finance up
events.
front.
So exactly, but it was day to day. I was
Yep.
paying some rooms and getting the money from the week before. I could not say I had a strong bank account at that time. My personal account was better, but still the company money was going down. Like you saw my events right now, we got 15, sometimes we have 20 vendors. And my most interesting event is the Mars with 42 companies. But back then, I was doing events with 3 to 5 companies at a time. So sometimes I was not even breaking even. So I wanted to get customers happy with the service and eventually being profitable.
That's amazing, Guillaume. Yeah, I really admire you going through those tough times in the beginning. I think it's a crazy stat. I think it's something like over 80% of startups end up folding within the first 3 years. The majority never
Yeah,
make it.
I heard some numbers. The first couple of years for sure are the most difficult. And in my case, it was like this up and down because after we became successful, I don't know if you knew that, but we got our first few shows in the Mars building, where it's one of the shows that you did for sure. I remember you at the Mars. So basically, the first two were in 2015, and we got noticed by these companies from Ontario, LabX.
Okay.
This is a media company. It's a Canadian company that made their business into reselling used lab equipment. They noticed me. At the time, it was one of my biggest show. It was maybe 9, 10 companies at the Mars, and they saw us and they were really aggressive. They gave us an offer to buy us.
Okay.
They wanted to buy Biotech Connect, but we said Biotech Connect is not really a thing you can buy. It's me, Simon. We are working. We don't have any offices. We don't have any much of equipment. This is our knowledge. So we cannot sell you this. You will need to hire us. And so
Mm.
they decided to give us a certain amount of money to buy the concept, the name of Biotech Connect. And then they hire us as a director of the department, which was a new department for them, the event department.
Okay, so kind of your rights to the
Yeah, the
the
name was
concept.
sold to them. The website was sold to them. All the small equipment, all the tables were officially theirs. It was strange because they paid us in part money, part shares from their company.
Mhm.
Long story short, we decided to go because they were offering a paid job and a better salary than what we
Sure.
used to get ourselves. For almost 2 years, from 2016 to 2018, we worked for them. We got someone working in the art department helping us with our flyers. The content was now doing our bookkeeping, because the first 2 years we were doing all of this together by ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they even got us each an assistant. So myself, I had an assistant, and Simon as well.
Wow, that's
But
luxury.
it's a lot of people working. We were two people working on one salary before that. So
Sure.
after 2 years, they realized we were not making enough money. But it was not the right formula. They started too big too quickly. So
Hmm.
basically, after 2 years, they said, Guillaume, we want to meet you. I am too busy. I'm more effective working from home. Guillaume, you should come to Midland, meet us. I don't know. I really am in a rush. Okay, Guillaume, we will say it on the phone if you don't want to come. Um, we fire you.
Oh.
After buying my company, after 2 years, they fired me. So I said, can I buy back my company? And they
Mm.
said, oh, why not? We cannot make money quick enough with this. So basically, I bought back my company with some of the money that they gave me to buy my company. I had nothing to spend from my own pocket. I bought back the company for less than the money that they give to my share, to my half of the company. But of
Okay.
course, I could have kept this money and find another job. But I decided it's better for me to be my own boss, have my own company. I have the idea. I know how to push it. I know how to grow it, and I don't regret this.
What drove you to make that decision? Because obviously you spent a lot of time reflecting. Was it because you got reminded of the time you did work for someone, you really didn't like it, you didn't want to go back, or was it something
That's the
else?
first thing I reminded. Maybe I'm not meant to work for someone else, and not only that, but I had a lot of conversation with a lot of my friends. Some are entrepreneur as well. Those guys, all of those that are working for themselves that I know, they all told me the same thing. You're better with your idea, your own company. You will have no limits, contrary to working for someone else. This way, you have a really good idea. You're mostly alone in the market if you have the money to start it back. And I was more comfortable money wise than at the first launch. I could have started from scratch a new company doing the same thing, but I decided to buy back the name Biotech Connect from them
Yeah,
because
well, because
this
it has
name really,
equity. It had equity in
yeah,
the name already, right? A point.
exactly. So
Yeah.
even some of the customers during those 2 years, they were still calling us Biotech Connect. It was again another couple of difficult year because from 2018 to 2020, I got a friend of mine working with me, and the money was really tight. Since it was an employee, it was my priority to pay him before paying me. So some months I could not pay myself, and then the pandemic struck.
Like a lot of businesses, that must have been a huge challenge for you. So how did you survive that? Because that's your whole model, is to get out there and meet people in person.
It was impossible. I remember I was in Concordia University in March 2020 when Quebec government announced that they are restricting any social gathering. So this means my old business model.
Yes.
What will we do? We finished this show. Everybody was talking about this,
Yeah.
and I had to cancel all the rest of my year. So back then, I was well organized that at the beginning of the year in January, I was publishing the whole year of shows. I had to cancel all of those. I tried to do a podcast for a couple of months to stay connected with my customers, the companies that used to be exhibitors. So I did that for a couple of months. It was not lucrative because I was just losing money, not making any. After a couple of months, I got a call from one of my good friends. I studied with him undergrad with Dr. Andres Finzi, who is now principal investigator at CRCHUM, working on HIV. He called me because he needed my help. He needed someone trained for cell culture and protein production stat. I said yes. So I got a job as a research assistant there. And for 2 years, I went back doing cell culture, protein production, protein purification to help him work on SARS-CoV-2. That
Wow.
saved me because basically the company could stay inactive without spending any money. But myself, I needed an income. I have two kids and a wife. And since this guy was a good friend, he knew that the second the pandemic was done, the second I was able to go back to do shows, I would leave him and go back to my company.
Yeah, there's understanding there. Wow, I think so far it's been a really interesting journey. A lot of ups and downs and challenges, but opportunities just seem to materialize for you just around the corner
Yeah.
when there is a challenge, and then you have enough confidence in yourself to go and grab that opportunity. What I'm getting is that when you have that entrepreneurial spirit in you, it's just your instinct, and just so natural to try to find solutions. When you have a challenge like COVID, you're always trying to find a way to move your company forward. Okay, you'll do a podcast. If it doesn't work, that's okay. It doesn't matter. At least I tried it. And then another door
Yeah,
opens.
and to be honest, this podcast is still available on YouTube on Biotech Connect channel. You can have a look at it, but I was not natural like you are to host that kind of podcast. No, you're really good, Pat.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that, but that's not the point I was trying to make. The point is you actually did it. You
Yeah,
tried
yeah,
it.
tried. I
And
tried. I got at least, I think, 10 episodes, and to be honest, I had fun doing that. I was so blessed when I got back from the pandemic. The first company going back to universities, all my customers were waiting for 2 years to see their customers. So that was the phoenix, this animal that is reviving from the ashes. I got a boom of registration as soon as I was booking any shows. All the companies answered to the call, and I got full rooms. If the room could accommodate 10 tables, I was 10. If the room could accommodate 15, I was able to get 15. So from that time, after the pandemic, I got 100% occupancy for my shows, bringing more attendees, more researchers, and then again, snowball effect. It was working, and now I can say I'm profitable after all those years. Phew.
wow, what a story. After the rain, there's always a sun that comes out. And if you
Yes,
can manage through the hard times, you get rewarded. I think back then, right after COVID, you could probably charge double the price of what you were
I could.
charging
Yeah,
pre-COVID, and companies would have still come out.
yeah, exactly. I think the first year it was still the same prices 2 years back. And of course, after having no difficulty finding my customers, just sending one email, you cannot imagine that. At first, I had to call the day before the show, the sales rep one by one, convince them to come to the shows. And after COVID, I was
Not
sending one
anymore.
email with the schedule, and everybody was registering. It was
Oh,
crazy.
people were itching to get out there.
A lot of people told me I will never come back, as it were. People like to work from home. That's a thing that is not good for the sales rep going in the labs trying to get their customers. They are
Mhm.
not able to meet with the PI. Even the lab manager sometimes is not there. The student, when they are doing data analysis, they are not doing it in the lab computer anymore. They are doing it from home.
A lot of the buildings
So
are on
basically,
lockdown anyways.
so the lockdown, the people teleworking. So this is helping me because when I do the show, they will come that day. They will enjoy a sandwich, a coffee with us. They like to talk with the vendors. Some student, when I started to do the shows, some students were doing a master for 2 years and they never saw one sales rep in their life.
Mm.
So at the end of the day, they have multiple questions they need answered. And not only that, the other way around, some new sales rep that now are doing shows with me, they never did lab to lab visits because it's impossible in some institution now. But the old
Absolutely.
guys, people older than me, they all did that, and they knew the layout of the university. They knew where is which lab, but not anymore. So my shows is the best way for them to meet their customers.
Like a lot of really good businesses, you're solving a problem and you're adding value. As long as you keep on doing that, that
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing.
And the final perk is I like to travel. So I'm visiting all Canada from Vancouver to Halifax. So that's really fun. So
That's pretty
maybe
perfect.
someday I will send my people doing those shows and I will handle it from my lair. But now I like to go
There, right
to
there.
Vancouver.
It looks like a
Yeah,
lair. You're
yeah,
in a
that's it. I
basement.
have
Looks
my foyer, my propane for foyer. I have my pictures. I have some old paintings from my kids. So hey, even with my air hockey table, I'm good.
you're in your happy place.
Yeah.
At what point in your journey did you finally tell yourself, okay, I can actually do this full time? Like I can actually do this for the rest of my life. I'm confident. This is it. Not going
Good
back to the
question.
corporate.
It was progressive. I think, to be honest with you, from the beginning, it was my dream and wish. So I never stopped having this as a dream and as a wish. Of course, sometimes it was really difficult and I was about to
Give up?
drop everything.
Yep.
Even there's this funny story that my wife likes to share with some friends. When I got COVID for the first time a few years back, I was so tired. I was so stressed about, oh, in about 3 weeks, I will need to go back to do a show because the show were started again. So it
Yep.
was around 2021. And I told her, oh, it's too difficult. I will drop everything. I don't want to do anything else with that. It's too much for me. But it was COVID speaking. It was the lowest point for me. But other than that, um, I was also really always really positive. But the first
Yep.
time I was really confident that I would make some money from it. It was right after pandemic when my calendar was fully booked, could not accept any new vendors. So there, I felt that not only I can live from it, but I might even be able to get a decent salary because before that
Wow.
it was not a PhD. I was not a PhD salary yet.
So having started in 2014, so that's what, like 8 years? About
8 years later,
eight years later that you have the confidence in, okay,
because to
we're
be honest,
actually
I
going
can
somewhere.
tell that it's going well now. But
Yeah.
for 8 years, when I was selling, it was facade. It was, oh,
Yeah.
it's going well. I'm holding.
Yeah.
But
That's
now
amazing.
I'm comfortable enough. To be honest, I did bump up my own salary, and I got an employee full time for the first time since 2018.
Congratulations on success. Even if it's 8 years later, it's good to see that you stuck with it and you've had that internal drive. Yeah,
And
I think we're
also,
all. Yeah, go ahead.
thank you for giving me this opportunity because this story I cannot tell to all my customers. And I like this opportunity to say that it was really difficult to get there. This is not something that you can do out of the first year. This is why I'm charging for those shows because it's really difficult to get a room or to book. People are difficult to bring to the shows. So I'm happy you give me this opportunity to talk about my story a little bit.
Oh, no, I'm happy. And hopefully it inspires other entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs to get into the industry. That's what we need. It's a small world, small industry. So I think the more variety and the more new ideas that come in, the better. I'm not encouraging anyone to be your competitor or anything, but you know what I mean.
I hope not.
Well, if they ever listen to this, next time one of your vendors sees you at a show, they'll know the amount of sacrifice it took for you to get to this point, and hopefully they appreciate it. I appreciate that just from an entrepreneur's point of view. You don't have an ego. You're willing to do whatever it takes for the company, even to go back to the lab and do some cell culture for your buddy there for a short period of time
Oh,
to just keep it
yeah,
going, right?
you need to have a not a too big ego to be trained by a master student after a postdoc being president of your company.
Well, I mean, it's that perspective and attitude that got you to where you are today. I wish you nothing but the best. I mean, your events have been really good value to us, especially a company like North Star, where we're just starting. We're the new kid on the block. Nobody knows us. So it's really important exposure to get out there and talk to customers and explain our company, explain our partners. And you're doing exactly that. Looking forward to see where you take this company into the future for the next 8, 20, 30 years. Let me
We
know.
can do a 10 year later interview when
10 years
you
later,
10 years.
yeah. Okay, let's do it. That is a deal, my friend. That is a deal. Really appreciate you, Guillaume. Looking forward to seeing you in person, shaking your hand in person in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you so much,
All
Pat.
right. Thanks, Guillaume.